he's just not interested in playing for the club anymore, is he? He's more interested in getting stupid haircuts, driving around in his shiny car and wearing tracksuits that would an 18-year-old would be embarrassed about wearing. Pathetic, spineless, gutless, just 3 words to describe this performance yesterday here at the Emirates. This is the Arsenal versus Liverpool match review. Hello, I'm Richard, welcome back to my channel. Over and over and over again, the usually positive Arsenal channel. Now, there's not much to be positive about today, is there, following that disastrous performance yesterday against Liverpool. I'm going to look at the team lineups. I'm going to analyse the performance. I'm going to try to select a man of the match from that sea of mediocrity. Just before I get into all that, I want to make sure you are subscribing to my channel. If you do enjoy what I do, you like some generally positive Arsenal content, please click on the subscribe button down in the corner there. Completely free of charge. It just helps the channel to reach a larger audience. If you like the video, please give it a like as well. Please share the content around. If you've got any comments at all to make about the performance yesterday, the team lineups, or anything at all to do with Arsenal, please drop them in the box below, as I do love to hear from you guys, and I do try to reply to as many as I can. So Mikel Arteta, of course, he was forced to make several changes to the side, wasn't he, yesterday, following a few injuries and illnesses that had turned up in the international break. So it was always going to be a difficult game, and it was always going to be a difficult lineup for him to choose from. But this is how we started the game. So it was Leno in goal, as expected. There was one change in the back four, so Chambers kept his place at right back. Mikel Arteta does seem to favour him in certain games, doesn't he? Rob Holding came in at centre back for the injured David Luiz. He could be out for the season now. David Luiz, a big loss that is as well, and he partnered Gabriel, and then Kieran Tierney did start at left back as usual. In midfield, of course, Granit Xhaka was out with an illness, so it was Dani Ceballos who came in to partner Thomas Partey. I wasn't exactly thrilled by that selection, but there's not a lot of other options, is there, in that area? And of course, in the front four, missing Saka and Smith Rowe, both with injuries. So Odegaard was in the number 10 position, and the front three was our 3 most expensive signings in history. It was Nicolas Pepe, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and Lacazette was through the middle. So that was how we lined up. For Liverpool then, yes, they've still got their injury problems, but in the circumstances, this is probably the strongest Liverpool side that's available. So they lined up like this. It was Alisson in goal, their back four, Alexander-Arnold, Phillips, Kabak and Robertson. They had Fabinho, Thiago and James Milner came in midfield, and their front three was the famous front three, Mane, Salah and Firmino. So that was how the teams lined up in this game. I mean, what can you say about that performance? It just was nowhere near good enough. We lacked ideas, we lacked a plan, and we just seemed to sit back and wait for Liverpool to score. The only shock for me was that it actually took Liverpool over an hour to get their first goal. They could easily have been 2 or 3 goals ahead long before that point in the game. We offered nothing at all going forward. Defensively, we were poor. It was just down to some poor finishing from Liverpool, really, that made everybody have to wait for that first goal. I don't know what the plan was, what the idea was. If it was to sit back and play on a counter-attack, well, we just didn't counter-attack. The front players did not do enough. Now, you've got to look at your captain, Aubameyang. He's just not interested in playing for the club anymore, is he? He's more interested in getting stupid haircuts, driving around in his shiny car and wearing tracksuits that would an 18-year-old would be embarrassed about wearing. The guy's a disgrace. I've always wanted to support Aubameyang because I've always liked his attitude, his smiliness on the pitch, but over the last few months, that's gone. He's clearly not interested in his club. He's not doing anything on that pitch. I'll strip him of the captaincy and I would drop him out of the team. Not good enough, nowhere near good enough. And he's not the only one, unfortunately. In midfield, Dani Ceballos, again, he's just not good enough to play for this club, I'm afraid. He had an opportunity yesterday to come in with Granit Xhaka's illness, and he did nothing at all. In fact, he made it 3 times more difficult for his partner Thomas Partey, who had to try to cover for him at every single opportunity. Was exposed constantly throughout that game, and I actually felt sorry for Thomas Partey. He's not 100% fit probably himself yet, and he's having to to do. The job of two people in midfield, just not good enough at all. Pepe, we know, doesn't offer enough unless it's a good game, unless we're on top and we're dominating. He's absolutely useless. He's not going to contribute anything to the game. And I felt a little bit sorry for Lacazette up front as he didn't get the ball. But again, he didn't work hard enough to earn it, did he? What Odegaard must have been thinking. He got the ball in midfield. There was no runners around him. He looked completely lost as well. And defensively, we were all over the place. The first goal, yes, it was a fantastic cross from Alexander-Arnold, sort of deliveries that you know he's going to be able to produce. But once again, we allowed a player 5'8", 5'9" to get ahead of him in between the two defenders, Chambers and Holding. Neither of those two are any good. I'm sorry, they're just not up to the required standard. You know, they're nice guys and everything else, but they're just not good enough footballers. They're not learning from their mistakes. And while we have to rely on these sort of players in the squad, we're never going to progress. The second goal, yes, Gabriel got caught out. Mo Salah's a good player, we know that. Gabriel did get caught out, obviously, and then after that, his head went, as it's done before, without David Luiz alongside him to steady him and to get him refocused. He was all over the place in the last 20 minutes. And of course, it was his fault that gave away the third goal with a terrible pass out from the back, which we were punished for. So we lacked leadership all over the pitch, didn't we? We had no leadership in defence, we had no leadership in midfield, and we had no leadership further up the pitch as well. And unfortunately, we have got no leadership on the touchline either. Arteta may well be a very good coach, and in fact, I'm sure he will prove himself to be a very good coach, but that's what he is, a coach. He is not a manager, and he's certainly not a manager good enough for what we need. We know some of these players aren't good enough, and we know that, but we can't rely on two kids out of our academy, 19 and 20 years old, Saka and Smith Rowe, injured in this game, and you can see how much we miss them, and that's not a good situation to be in, is it? You can't rely on two young players like that to drag you through, and unfortunately some of these other players aren't good enough. What you've got to be able to do as a manager is you've got to be able to adapt your system to suit what you've got, to try and get the best out of those players. For some reason, Mikel Arteta still wants to play the Man City way with players that just aren't good enough to be able to do it. We're getting caught out against the better players, and this is a result of that. But to me, it doesn't matter how good the players are. What it matters is the attitude that they're showing on the pitch. That comes from the manager, and their attitude of the players yesterday, and it's not just the only time this season, it's happened time and time again. The attitude is wrong. They're going out with the wrong mindset. They're not working hard enough. It's almost as though they don't believe in what they're doing. And unfortunately, that comes back on the manager. He admitted it himself yesterday after the game, Arteta. He said it's his fault, and it totally is his fault. And the only way we're going to put that right is when he leaves this club. So for a man of the match, it's almost impossible to pick one from that performance, isn't it? You know, if I was giving the players marks out of 10, I don't think anybody would get more than a 2, and most of them would probably get 0. Leno in goal, could have done better with the second one, there's no doubt about that. He was exposed a lot of times, he did make a couple of good saves, but overall he didn't cover himself in massive amount of glory, did he? I said defensively, I thought we were dreadful. No leadership there at all. Too many individual mistakes constantly happening. Of course, it didn't help when Tierney had to go off injured in the first half. Looks like it could be a bad knee injury. He could be out for quite a long time as well, adding to our problems. But none of the defenders played well yesterday anyway. Cedric came on, didn't he, at left back, struggled against Mo Salah, Alexander-Arnold, and not really his fault. It's not his natural position. But defensively, we were terrible. I say Gabriel, he needs a bit of leadership alongside him, doesn't he, to calm him down when he makes a mistake. He didn't get that yesterday because Holding just isn't that sort of player, and he was having a terrible game himself. In midfield, of course, Dani Ceballos, as I said, completely anonymous, almost wasted time in playing. You know, I was shocked when we brought Mohamed El Neni on when it was 0-0, but we had to get Dani Ceballos off that pitch. The only shock to me was that it took that long. I would have took him off in the first half. He was that poor. Really, really terrible from Dani Ceballos. A dreadful performance from him, and that kind of sums him up for me, his time at Arsenal. I say the front four just didn't work hard enough. Yes, they didn't get the ball, but they didn't allow themselves to get the ball. A couple of times in that game, Odegaard had the ball in good positions, no runners around him. I felt a bit sorry for him because there was nothing he could have done in that game, and he's probably looking around and thinking, you know, if this carries on for the rest of the season, is he going to want to stay in this team at this club with those players around him? Probably not. You know, our most expensive free signings in our history was the front three, Aubameyang, Pepe and Lacazette, and none of them were worth any money. All that proves to me is that they are the biggest waste of money in the history of football. Not good enough. They're just not working hard enough. And if you're not having a great game, that's fair enough. You can accept that, but you can't excuse people not working and not trying and not giving 100% for this club, and those three once again have not done that. So for me, there's only one possible option for man of the match, and even he didn't have a great game, but I'm going to give it to Thomas Partey, mainly because I felt sorry for having to do the work of two players in midfield against that really strong Liverpool midfielder, Fabinho and Thiago. So Thomas Partey, he had his work cut out, he tried his best, he kept going, and that's all you could ask of a player. So for me, the only possible winner of man of the match yesterday has to be Thomas Partey. So, I mean, that just wasn't an acceptable performance. And unfortunately, it's not a one-off. You can maybe accept a poor performance every so often, can't you? I think every team, even the best teams in the world, will have a poor game every now and again. But this, unfortunately, is an accumulation of several, particularly at home, this season and even beyond that. And unfortunately, that does come down to the manager. The attitude of the players is a reflection of the manager. The tactics are a reflection of the manager. And unfortunately, our manager is not good enough for what we need. We need somebody with a lot more experience who can steady the ship and get more out of the players that we've got. Let's remember, if we're not in Europe next season, which is looking less and less likely now, the budget for new players is going to be low. We're going to have to sell players to bring players in. Half of these players we won't be able to get rid of, let alone sell them. They're just not good enough for Arsenal, and they're not worth any money to anybody else because they're just not exactly covering themselves in glory, are they? So we've got a massive problem to come. Arteta's proven quite clearly he cannot get any more out of these players, and if that's the case, then he's not the right man for this club, is he? We need somebody who can somehow manage to get these guys together and produce better performances. So that's my review there of yesterday's very disappointing game against Liverpool. Really, really poor. Don't really know what else we could say, really. Let's just hope that we can somehow manage to put this behind us for the Europa League game on Thursday. Stay tuned to the channel because I've got a load of good stuff coming up on the channel. I will be doing a live show probably Tuesday evening just to talk about all these issues that's going on and whether or not this is time, or certainly the end of this season, it'll be time for a change of manager. We need some leadership in the club quite clearly before it gets even worse. Also, as well, I will be looking at the game on Thursday against Slavia Prague. I'll be doing a preview of that game probably on Wednesday, and then I'll be doing a live watch along on Thursday night and a live fan cam show afterwards as well, before building up towards the Sheffield United game next weekend as well. So loads are coming up on the channel. So if you haven't done so already, please get the subscribe button down in the corner there. So it does help it to reach a larger audience. Please give this video a like if you've enjoyed it. Share the content around. I say drop your comments in the box what you made of the performance. Whose fault is it? Is it Arteta to blame? Is it the players to blame? Is it a bit of both? Please let me know your thoughts. I will try to reply to as many as I can. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks for your support of the channel. Unfortunately, it hasn't been a very positive video today, but it reflects what's going on at the moment, and it reflects that really dreadful performance yesterday. Let's hope we can put it behind us and we can move forward to Thursday and at least prolong the season a bit longer, keep us with something to play for. And who knows, you get to a semi-final of a cup competition, anything's possible, as we showed last season in the FA Cup. So let's try and stay positive if we can. It's really difficult at the moment, but stay tuned to Chelsea. Lots of good stuff coming up. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your support. And of course, in the meantime, as always, come on you Gunners, we need to be better, boys.